All right, welcome everyone. Let's start with this second, and we have about the new quality control features for Nfield. The first session was a preview of what we were about to release. And, we have now released the first set of features to everyone. So in this session, we will shortly go over what we already presented in the preview, and then explain all the features as we have them released now. So let's take a short look at the detailed agenda. I will start with a very quick overview of the result and the QC status, the different result and quality control status, so that we fully understand what those statuses mean and what the effect on the results of the interview for the different statuses are. We'll do a demo where we dive completely into all the features that are available on the quality control page. The first part of the demo will be both for Online and CAPI, so that is relevant for everybody. Then we do a recap and questions for that demo part, and then we'll do another demo, and that is specifically for CAPI only, because there are a few quality control features that have been available for a long time, but that we now are also are available on that new quality control page, and those quality control features are for CAPI specific. So that demo will be for CAPI specific, and then we'll end with a recap and questions for that part of the demo. The first demo will probably take about 45 minutes, the second one about 50 minutes, which will probably bring this entire academy to round about 70 minutes. So let's not waste any more time, and let's go to the next one. So result, or rather the interview status. Some of you that have been working with NIPO for a very long time might be used to think about the result as in terms of response code. For Nfield, you better think of that as a result, because some of those result codes they correspond to more than one response code, and some response codes, especially code 18, corresponds with more than one result. So the results we have in Nfield, there are more than this, but let's take a look at these most important results. That is assigned, that is a CAPI only result, and it means that it is that this interview has been assigned to a CAPI interviewer, but not picked up yet. Active means that that interviewer has been assigned and picked up by the CAPI interviewer. Active live is an online only result. That means that that interview is going on right now. Dropped out means that the interview is either paused or the respondent closed his or her browser midway. Screened out means that there has been a result for this interview and that result was not successful. So that interviewer has either been routed to a end NGB in the script or quota out. All of these are screened outs. And finally, successful. That means that the interview has been completed, successful. It is counted in the results. Later the latter two responses, the screened out and the successful, are what we call definite responses, in the sense that those interviews cannot be restarted anymore. Okay, so that is for the result codes, and then we have a few specific codes for the quality control status. And those codes are unverified. Every interview, every successful interview starts with the unverified status. It could be that it is set to needs to be checked. That is still unverified but a special status. That status can be set from the script. There is also a way that you can set that status automatically if a certain threshold in the medium duration of the script has been met. We will take a look at that later. We have introduced a new status, which is marked to be rejected, which is the first step in 4 eyes rejection. So marked to be rejected is there is one QC agent that checks, then marks it to be marked to rejected, and then a second one is needed to either approve or reject it. Then we have a status approved, and finally we have a status rejected. The rejected is the only one of those status that actually have an action associated with it, because all the rejected interviews will be removed from the total count, and they will be removed from any quota count. That is the only thing that will happen. The data will not be touched, but they will no longer be counted as successful interview. Let's very quickly see how that then looks in the manager. So if I go to, let's say, counts, setup. Let's take a look at the results of this interview. So we have 20 successful interviews, 5 interlocked quota cells. So in total, we have 10 quota cells, each of them with 2 successful interviews. That's all we need to remember for now. Let's go to the quality control page, which you can find in sample and invitations, and then the tab quality control. Simply pick one of these. Let's view the details for which quota cell this exactly is. So this is a male 26 to 40 years old. We will reject this one. Sure that we want to reject this one. And if we now go to monitor field work, and if I press F5, we now should have 19 successful interviews, and indeed male 26 to 40 is the one that has been removed. So this is what happens when you reject an interview. Then let's go back to our presentation. Current slides. And then one last thing to take a look at. So those QC statuses, what do they look like in a flow diagram? Well, as said, they start with either unverified or needs to be checked. That is the status they have when the interview has finished. Then from these status, you can either go to mark to be rejected, and then from that state go to approved or reject, or you can immediately from these stages go to approved or rejected. And with that, now we understand the result codes and the different QC status. Let's go into the demo. Let's take a look at that QC page, that quality control page, and let's see what all of those actions there mean. Let me very quickly do this here. Okay. So here are all the quality control surveys that I prepared. So let's start with go to this one. Simple quality control page. So this is the quality control page. We see a count of the approved, the rejected, and the unverified yet, and which one needs to be checked. And we have an overview of all the interviews that have currently been done with their validation state. So open that interview. We can either change the status of that interview. We can look at the details, and the details actually means that we look at all the answers actually given. All the answers actually given during that interview. Let's actually see then what that looks like. So let's start with an overview of all the standard questions. Let me very quickly open the Odin developer and let me show you the script that we are using for this. So that would be the QC standard questions. This script. No. Opening it. Standard questions open. Okay. So as said, these are the standard questions. So we have an alpha question, we have a number question, a codes question, single codes question, we have a multi-codes question. Then we have a multi-codes question with a half open answer. So that is here. We have a multi-codes question or single codes question in this case with a button. And we have an open question. So these are pretty much the standard questions. As you can see, there's nothing special. There's nothing special that I need to do here. These are simple, the standard questions. So let's go back to our manager. Let's actually run this survey. So see it one more time there too. So this is our alpha question. So let's say name of respondent. Well, I'm not going to improve on that typo. This is our number question. This is our single codes question. So we'll pick a code. This is our multi-codes question. This is our multi-code question with a open one. So let's say brand Y. This is our single codes question with a button. So instead of a code, we will choose the button here. And then finally, we have our open question. So now we've done the survey. Let's take one step back. Go back to our standard questions. Sample quality control page. This is the survey we just did, the interview we just did. And let's see what that looks like. So we have an alpha question. You see the ID of that question. This is actually the question text, and we see the answer. The number question, again, the ID, the question text, the answer, single code, and we see the code that has been chosen. As you can see, you do not see the entire code list. You see only the actual chosen codes. The multi-codes, we see the 3 chosen multi-codes. With the half open question, we actually get the open question. We see how that code is called other, and we actually see the answer of that open question. With the button question, if you click on the button, you will see the data, the title of the button here, title of the chosen button, and with the open questions, you will actually see the open answers. So this is already, I think, a huge time saver. You do no longer need to look in different files in the closed answer and the open answer files. You have all the answers that actually were given by the respondent here. So those are the standard questions. Now, next step is we might wonder, okay, in which order do I actually see this question? What is the precise order of this question? Now, I prepared a survey for that too, and that one is, why do I keep on losing this filter? QC. That one is actually called order of questions. Let's simply run this questionnaire. See what happens. So if I run this question, it will start with a question which simply asks what order should be used. Should I run from question 1 to 5, or should I run from question 5 to 1, or should I use a random order? Let's do them all. So we'll start with question 1 to 5. So question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do one more. And we'll do that in reversed order. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we'll do one in random order. So that will jump from starting on question 4 to 1, to 2, to 3, and then it should be 5. And that's it. Now, let's actually take a look. Okay, so we run the same survey. We did it in 5 different question orders. Let's see what that results in the overview that we get in the question in the quality control page. So this is the survey we just did. These are the 3 we just did, because we did 3 of them. So let's view the details. The first question, which was always the question asked first, which in which order should it be? Well, this is normal, so we see it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the second one. Should not have clicked on that. Go back. The second one, we actually said we want to see it in reversed order. But as you can see, the order in which we actually we want to play it for the respondent in reversed order, and we did, but the actual order you see here is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the next one is true as well. That one, the last one, is random order. Yeah, random order, and still we see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So point of this is the order in which you will see the questions here is the order in which the questions appear in the script. So this is the order in the script is here, that we start with in which order should we show the question, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will always be the order in which you see the questions on this page too, no matter how they are posed to the respondent. Reason behind this is that quality assurance agent that is checking this doesn't know which order has been played. It will only be confusing for him if we show this in a different order each time. If you are somehow interested in what was precisely the order in which this was shown, there is a way to find that out, and that is by downloading the data and then downloading the audit log. If I create that download and then download that one, actually, yeah, put it there. Yeah. If I then open this audit log and then not want you to change anything there. Here you can see the last 3 interviews, and you see the first one, which was in normal order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The second one, which was reversed 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the one in random order. So if somehow that order is important to you, you can still find out what that order was by simply opening the audit log and checking in which order this was actually shown to the respondent. So we have taken a look at the standard questions. We now have seen that the order in which those questions are shown are always the order in which those questions appear in the script. Now you might wonder, okay, what happens to subroutines? Well, I have one prepared for that one as well. And that one is called, not surprisingly, subroutines. So let's immediately go to sample and the quality control page. Let's also take a look at the script here. That is open the script. That is subroutines in script. And as you can see here, I have two very straightforward subroutines. One has question 1 in it, the second subroutine has question 2 in it. And then I have a script where the first question, second question, then I call on the first subroutine. I have a third question, I call on the second subroutine. I have a fourth question and a fifth question, and finally I call once more on the first subroutine. So I could run that script, but I'm pretty sure that you will believe that that works as it does. So let's immediately go to how that would look if you run this. If you look in this in the quality control page, so we have a first question, which is okay, then the second question, and then we actually have the first subroutine, which you can see here as one, that this is a subroutine, and this is the first time that we call on the subroutine. Then we have the question inside that subroutine, which is Q1. Then we have the third question. Then we have the second subroutine again, still as one, because it's a subroutine. It's the first time we call on the subroutine, and Q2 is the question in that subroutine. 140, or the fourth question, the fifth question, and then finally the second time that we call on the second subroutine. That we call on the first subroutine, and you can see that this is S2, the second time that we call on the subroutine, and Q1 in the subroutine. So the subroutines are inserted in the place where they are called, and we have a counter here that actually keeps track on how many times that subroutine has been called. So this is how you use subroutines here. And then let's take this one step further, because we have looked at the standard questions. Now we also have somewhat what we call compound questions, or hierarchical questions, that are repeats and matrices. These questions are a bit different in the sense that these questions, if you want to understand them, they need to be related to other questions. The thing to understand here, that our quality control page, the answers we show there are taken from our repository. So they are coming from a relational database, and in order to make those matrices and repeats understandable to that relational database, you have to explicitly make clear what that relation actually is. Now, it sounds a bit complicated. Let me show you what I mean by simply opening a download. I have prepared, oh no, not the download. I want to upload a survey. I have prepared two different versions of the same questionnaire. One which contains the compound questions without the table command, and one that contains the compound question with table commands. Let's first try to upload the compound questions without the table command. And as soon as we do that, you will actually see that we have a warning. This is a warning that you might have encountered before, because this is a warning that has been present in Nfield for over a year now, and it actually says, I have a repeat which doesn't have a table command, which means it will not be included in the delivery pipeline. And the result of that is that it will not be included in the QC overview. Another repeat without a table command, and there is a warning for a missing table command in the matrix. So you get a clear warning if you have not related those repeats and matrices properly. Now let's not save this one. Let's go to the developer and let's actually take a look at this compound question with the table command. And let's take a look what it actually does. And we will meet the table command when we get there. So it starts with a question where we ask, okay, which brands do you know? Then we have a repeat of 9 where we simply say, how often do you use this brand? So here you see the table command where we relate this repeat to the list where it should be related to. I'm not going into details what it precisely does because that is a bit out of scope for this one. I will refer you to the command reference where this is explained. So how often do you use this brand name? And then you have never, now and then, or always. If you use it never, there is an open question where we say why. If you use it always, we have a second repeat, a inner repeat, where again we need a table command to make sure that that inner repeat is related to the brand name. And in that inner repeat, we simply ask, okay, if that brand was not available, would you consider using any of the other brands you know? And then we close the inner repeat, we close the outer repeat. We have a different dummy that we have filled with brands that are used, and then finally a matrix where we simply ask, where do you buy the brand, online or in store? And again, this is where you put the table for the matrix. Okay, let's run this so we can see it as once. So we're not saving this one, so we still have the one with the table commands loaded. So copy it. So let's say we know brands B, E, and G. That's it. Next one. How often do you use brand B? Let's say never. Then I get the open question. Why? Because, let's say for this one, I'm using always, and then we get the inner repeat that says, okay, if you can't use brand E, would you consider using brand B? This is, of course, a silly question because I said that I never use brand B. But this is a trap that you could lay for a respondent. If you can't use brand E, would you consider using brand G? Let's say yes. And then for this one, now and then we have the matrix. Where do you buy the brand, online, in store? Okay, let's switch to our quality control overview, and let's see how this looks like. So we have the brands known, which we already see because this is a standard question, and then we have the inner repeat or the outer repeat, sorry, that we have connected to brand name. And because we have connected to the brand name, we actually see, okay, brand B, never, brand E, always, brand G, now and then. Then we have the inner repeat where we say, oh, no, this is the open question. Why do you never use brand B? Well, because of this. And then we have the inner repeat that we have connected to brand name and all brand name. And because we have done that correctly, we can now actually see that this is an answer. Okay, if you can't use brand E, would you consider using brand B? If you can't use brand E, would you consider using brand G? Yes. And then finally, where do you buy the brand? And again, because of the table command, we can nicely relate brand E to online and brand G to in-store. Okay, without the table command, in case you wonder, if we did not use the table command, we would only see Q1 and not any of the matrices or repeats. So those are the compound questions. Then we have two more things to take a look at to fully understand what we are seeing here and how we should be using it. Back to surveys. One is what questions? Oh, I really thought I had closed Slack because I'm getting a bit of target, and I really did. So yeah. Okay. First is the questions. What questions do I actually see here? And for that, let's take a look at what we call at the skipped questions. The questions that you see in that quality control page are the questions that are actually posed to the respondent. So you will not see any dummy questions. You will not see any questions that for this respondent has been filtered out, and you will see only those questions that are posed to the respondent and that have an answer. So let's take a look at the script that I will be using that will hopefully make things completely clear. So in the script, we have one question, which I say, which question to use, the second or the third. And if we use the second, we will show the second, but not the third. If you use the third, we will not show the second, but we will show the third question. And then I have one question, which has a star none on it, which means that you could skip this question. You could give a non-answer to this question. And we have a second with a non-response on it, but in that one, I actually include an answer afterwards. Please note, this is bad practice to do this, because if you want to be able for someone to skip a question because you want to have a don't know option or don't care, create a button. Make that an explicit choice and do not rely on an implicit thing that he didn't give an answer to actually have that data. And this is also a bad idea. If you want to improve on an answer that a respondent gave, create a separate question where you do that. Do not override answers given by that respondent. So, although this is bad practice, let's simply see what happens if we do it, so we at least are not surprised by what we see if it happens. So let's go to our scripting again. This is the questionnaire. Let's quickly run it. So we are aware. So which question to use? Let's say I only want to see the third question, which means that we will skip the second question. This is our non-response, and I will use that non-response by actually clicking next here. This is the non-response that we do fill using an include later. So I will again give a non-response here. And the last question. Let's immediately go to our overview. Well, sorry, sample and invitations, quality control. This is the interview we just did. So let's view at the details. So which question to use? The third question, which means that we see the third question. We do not see the second question because that one was not posed to this particular respondent. So we do not see it here in the question overview either. We don't see question 4 either. That was a non-mandatory question, and it was posed to the respondent, but it doesn't contain any data, so it's not shown here. We see Q5 here because we have included data into Q5, so that one is then seen. And then finally the last question. So thing to remember here, the data you see in the overview is that are the questions that are actually posed to the respondent, and that contains data. And then the last thing to be aware of, if we start looking at that data, okay, what happens if I visit a question multiple times? What then do I see in this data? Again, I have a questionnaire done for that, which is a jump back questionnaire. I will very quickly show you the script for that. It is a script. Jump back, this one. It's we have a first question, a second question, and then a third question with more than one option, a fourth question, and then finally we have some routing where we simply say, go back to the third question, and we do that 3 times. And once we have done it 3 times, we can go out of this routing and it goes to the 5th question. So this makes sure that we actually circle over these questions 3 times. So let's go to the manager and let's run this one. So that is our first question, second question, and then we should go to the question. This is the first time that we meet the third question. This is the first time that we meet the fourth question. It jumps back. Second time that we go. Second time we go over this question. Third time we go over this question. Third time we go over this question. And now it should go forward to the 5th question. And there we are. Now, what does that look like in our overview? In quality control page. So this is the question that we just did, the interview that we just did, few details. As you can see, those questions, 3rd and 4th, those are the questions that have been run multiple times. Actually, you only see them once. And the data you see in that question is actually the last data answered. So 3rd time and 3rd time, that is the data that we'll see. You will only so if a question is visited multiple times, either by routing or because the respondent went back in the questionnaire, you will only see this question in this overview once. You can still see that this question was visited multiple times in, again, the audit log. So let's also download the audit log for this one. So we want the successful interviews. We only want to download the audit log. Let's create that download. Let's download it. Yeah, save it there. And open it. There we have the audit log, and then and this is the audit log of so the 6th interview was the interview that we did, and as you can see here, 130, 140, 140, 130, 140, 130, 140. So in the audit log, you can actually see that these questions were visited 3 times. Okay. So this is everything that I wanted to show about the answer overview that you get in the quality control page. Now, next thing that we see here are timings. if we go here, we see that we have a start time and a end time. So this is the start time of the interview. It's the end time of the interview. Notice that this is noted in the date in UTC time and then in the time zone of the QC agent, which is probably not the most meaningful way to do what we are still discussing. What we should show here. Other thing that you will see here is the duration. You will see that as soon as you will see that here, the duration of these interviews were 14, 26 seconds. If you open a specific interview and you go to view details, you will actually see that duration again, and then you will see it context of the average duration of the survey, which was 28 seconds. That average duration is taken from all the codes 18. Again, we have a discussion if it really should be code 18 or if we should go only the successful interviews, because remember the code 18s that then also includes the already rejected interviews. So we might change that in one of the coming months. For now, that average is calculated on all the codes 18. So that is the average duration. And as you can see, we have a duration per question. And again, let's go back to surveys and let's open the jump back survey. Should not have closed that one. Because one of the things that you could wonder, okay, what then happens if I visit a question multiple times? What duration do I see there then? Remember, this was the question that was visited multiple times, the third and the fourth question. And as you can see, they are already longer than the previous question. So what you actually see here is the sum of all the visits to this question. So if we open the Excel file of the jump back and we see Q130. So let's take a look at Q130 for this interview, which is 2 seconds, 2, 3, 2, 3. So that is 4, 5, and 7. Say that should be around 8 seconds, and indeed 7.19. So what you see here in the duration is the sum of all the times that question was posed on the screen. Now, if you have to one step back to the overview, there is one more duration that we see here, and that is the question median. So we have the duration, which is the calculated average, and we have the median. Very quickly explain what the difference between an average and a median is. I have prepared an Excel file for that. This is the one, this one. Okay. Let me close this one. And let me close all the Excel files, because it's opening the wrong one. So, and again. Okay, so the average, a average would be what we call a calculated average. So what you simply do, you sum up all the different values and you divide that by the number of items. So these are 21. We sum up from B2 to B22 and we divide it by 21. Now, if I would find a medium for this one, which is what I have done here, you would sort that duration from lowest to highest or from highest to lowest. That does not matter. And the medium is then the value exactly in the middle of that. So that is 14. So half of the values are lower or equal to that, and half of the values are higher or equal to the median. So that is the median. Now, why would that median be interesting? Would be interesting here. For that, I need to open my last example survey, and that one is average time. So let's immediately go to sample, and let's go to the survey. If you take a look at the average duration, there is actually not a single one here that stands out. They all look fine. But if we then take a look at the question median, you will see, hey, this one is only 1 second. So although the duration looks fine, that question medium immediately flags up, nah, there is something not correct with the survey. And as soon as we look at the details, we immediately see what's happening. All the questions are skipped to very quickly, and then at the last question, this respondent simply waited for more than 2 minutes and then submitted that question, which gave this interview a reasonable duration, but the medium immediately tells us, no, this is not a serious interview. So this is the reason why we show that medium, because that medium is, that duration is very easy to manipulate for a respondent. That medium is a lot more difficult, and you actually have to pose a reasonable amount of time at each question to get a reasonable median. And then you can just as well fill in the questionnaire. So then we have one more thing to show you for this medium. Because that medium is such a well flag for suspicious behavior, we actually made it possible to immediately flag a survey as needs to be checked if the medium is out of bounds. So to do that, go to setup survey, then go to field work, and there we have created a new option, which is question medium duration. And here you can actually configure the duration should be at least this many seconds. And if it falls below this many seconds, immediately mark this interview as needs to be checked. Or you can also put a maximum. If it is above that maximum, mark this interview to be checked as well. In this time, I will only configure a medium, which I will configure at 5 seconds. So if the medium gets below 5, it should be flagged as needs to be checked. I need to publish this. Let's publish it. This does not work retroactively. This only works from interviews that are done from this point onwards. So if we go to sample, sample and invitations and the quality control page, you will see that the one interview that we did take a look at just is still not marked to be checked because it does not work retroactively. Make sure that it actually does work for new interviews. So we will do an interview on this one, and here you can see I have two options here, which is I can either create an interview which has a more or less convincing duration and convincing medium, or I can fake it. As I say, we're going to fake this one because we want this one to be flagged. So you will see what happens. It automatically goes on to the next question after 1 second. And then on the last second, on the last question, it will actually wait, not as it says here 5 seconds, it will actually wait for more than 2 minutes, but it will start counting down the minute each time. So let's not stare at this clock being count down. Let's do something else. As you can see, we could flag that survey automatically as needs to be checked. That is something we can also do in the script. So let's take a look how that works if we do it automatically in the script. So let's open a script while we do that, and that is the set status script. So the one thing that we are looking at then is this TT interview quality that corresponds with the quality control status that needs to be defined as a sample data. And as soon as I've done that, I can then fill that TT interview quality with status 5. That is the only value at which you can fill this. And that is what I do here, and that then corresponds with this interview needs to be checked. In this particular survey, as you can see what I do here, I have a quota, and particular quota cell, namely those quota cells for male and young, I immediately put to needs to be checked because I expect that that is a problematic quota cell for which I will not get many interviews. So I want to check them all because every problematic interview will be problematic in my data. I have a time span here where I actually take a one date here, one date here, and then I calculate the difference between those two. And if that is below 10 seconds, I immediately check this as too short, and I put the TT interview quality to 5 here as well. And then I have a rather complicated check here where I randomly choose 1 in every 4 interviews that has not been flagged up yet as needs to be flagged, as needs to be checked. So this is how you do this in your script. You create whatever logic you want, and you make sure that you put the TT interview quality to 5 if that logic then decides that this interview needs to be checked. So we have done this interview completely. So if we now move to this one and we refresh it, we should have a second interview, one that has just been done. And we have this one, 24. As you can see, all those needs to be checked are sorted on top. This is the one that we just did, and it needs to be checked because the question median is below 5 seconds. So these are the date stamps that are available, and we have taken a look at how you can automatically set an interview to needs to be checked. Last thing to take a look at the quality control page is the search and filter options that we have available on this page. First one is sample and invitation. Quality control page. First one is the filter that we can set on this entire list. That filter can either filter on duration, we can filter on question median, on end time, interview ID, start time, or on validation state. So that way you can quickly filter to the particular surveys that you want to see. So if I only want to see the one that needs to be checked, I simply go to validation state, needs to be checked, and that will then only show me the two that actually are in need for checking. Other thing that we can do, look at view details, we can search the questions. Search questions, we can search questions, search question that will search on the question text. So if I do this one, efforts, it will immediately jump to this question because the question text of this one is actually efforts. So that is one way to quickly navigate through a long list of answers. You can search for the question text, or you can immediately here jump to a question ID. So that would be Q9, for example, that immediately then jumps to Q9. And here I have a slider that I can slide towards questions that I quickly want to go to. So this is the way you navigate through the quality control bits. Okay, this is everything. Well, indeed, almost an hour. So this is the demo for Online and CAPI. Let's very quickly recap what we have seen. So for the interview data, you will only see successful interviews there. You will not see screened out or quota full interviews, only the successful interviews, because those are the ones that are in need for quality check. You will only see questions that were shown to the respondent or the interviewer and that have data. Only the last data answered is shown if a question was visited multiple times and different answers were given to that question. Questions are shown in the order as they appear in the script. That is not necessarily the order in which they were shown to the respondent. Repeat and matrix will only be shown if they are set up with the table command. Each question is shown with the duration, that is the time it took for the respondent to answer the question. If a question is visited multiple times, the duration will be the sum of all those visits. And one last thing to remember: showing that interview data is at this stage only meant to evaluate the interview and change the QC status. It is not meant to change the interview data. So at this moment, that is not possible to change that interview data. That might change eventually, but at this moment, you cannot change the interview data. Timestamps. Each question is shown with the duration, the time it took for the respondent to answer the question. If a question is visited multiple times, that duration will be the sum of all visits. Each interview is shown with the duration of interview and the survey average duration. That average duration is based on code 18. All the interviews with code 18. Each interview is shown with the medium durations, and interviews can be set as need to be checked if they are outside the set thresholds of that medium. Any questions at this point, Art?
Yes, a question came in, Frank. It's from the beginning of the session already. What is the impact for data privacy of keeping the name in the main file for quality control? This is especially in context of global projects.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You should not keep the name in. You should not keep the name in your main data file. Yeah, which also means that it is not available for quality control either, because it's in your sample table at that point and no longer in your main file.
Okay, so avoid. Yeah, those are the questions, Frank.
Okay, then we'll continue with the demo for CAPI. So at this point, if you are only interested in online, I say goodbye to you. I will continue with those features for CAPI. As said before, the particular features for CAPI are about recording. So those are not new. So I will not demo an interview here because all those features have been there, have been in CAPI for a very long time. The thing that is new here is that we can actually show that media in that quality control page. So that is a huge time saver. You do no longer need to download all those recordings or all those pictures and then actually start connecting those recordings with the correct interviews. That is all done on that page for you. What I will do is open up very quickly the CAPI script that I will be using, so we are all aware what precisely we are talking about. So we have a script here. The three options we are interested in is taking a picture. So that is what we do here in question 10. It's an open question, but instead of an open answer, we actually say, please take a picture. So let's take a look what that then looks like. Surveys. So we'll go back to surveys. We should see QC CAPI. Let's go to the sample. And then we here have overview of interviews already done. Let's view the details. And here we see Q1. We see that this is the one where we say, please take a picture. And we have an icon here where we can actually click on that and you can see the picture being taken. This is my face slightly tilted. Okay, then next step is, let's take this one, is the question where we say, this is question 30, where we have a UI option that says, okay, again, this is a open question, but we are not recording a actually open question. Instead, we are recording a audio where people can say what they think of something instead of an interviewer typing it. So again, let's take a look. That looks like I need to go one step back because I realized I opened the one where I do not have all the recordings made. Yeah, this is the correct one. So that is Q30. So as you can see here, we actually have a recording here. I can click on it and it will play the recording. It does now play the recording over my headset, so you won't hear it. But I assure you, this actually, I can now listen to what has been said in context of this question. And then finally, so these are the ones that actually already are tied to a question. The first one was tied to question 10. This one is tied to question 30. So it's very easy for the system to know, okay, this should belong to this question. Now, the last one is the silent recording. And the silent recording is what we start here, recording, and we entered here. So this is a silent recording of these 5 questions. And because it is a silent recording, it is not specifically tied to a question, so we wouldn't know to which question that this belongs. And for that reason, you need to very specifically, if you want to have this visible in the quality control page, it needs to be tied to the first question of that silent recording, which in this case is 40. So I tie it here to question Q40, and then this page then actually knows, this quality page then actually knows, okay, from Q40, I actually have a silent recording. So it places this recording at Q40. I can click on it and it does now play the silent recording made over these 5 questions. I will stop it because I now hear other people talking in my headphone. You can see that this is several questions because this question took 2 minutes, took 2 seconds, this 4, this 5, so that is 9, 11, this one 7, that is 17 plus 5 more is 23 plus all the fractions, so that's around 25 seconds, which is exactly the duration of this recording. So this is indeed the recording of these 5 questions. So you can look at the pictures taken during the interview. You can listen to the recordings that were made in a CAPI interview if you record the answer instead of typing it into an open box, and you can listen to the silent recording in context of the questions that they are about, provided that you have typed that question to the first to the first question in that silent recording. There is one caveat there. This question needs to be posed. So the question where you tie it to, this one, that question actually needs to be posed. It needs to be answered. It needs to be visible in the quality control page. So make sure that if you do this, that you do not tie this to a question on the filter, because that might not be visible to everyone. That might not be posted to everyone. And then in this space, you will not see that silent recording because it cannot be tied to a recording. And then one last thing. We have seen media. Other thing which is specific for CAPI that you can also see once you open the interview, you can actually see the location where this interview was taken, provided we have a location. This is the location as noted in the paradata. So if there is a location in the paradata, you can click on that and it will actually show you a map. It will show you the pin drop and it will show you the 66% confidence level of this location fix. So those are the features specifically for CAPI. So any question from this point, Art?
Yes, question came in about silent recording. If you want to silent record questions at the start, middle, and end, do you need to start and stop on each question?
If you want, let me very quickly. It's a bit out of scope for this one because it's more about silent recording than anything else. But if you, let's say, I want to record the first 2 questions, then I need to start recording here, need to end that recording here, and I need to tie that first recording then to question 10. If I then say I want to also record these 2 questions, I again need to start a recording here, I need to end the recording here and tie this recording to question 41. And if I then want to silent record question 50, I need to do the recording here, tie it to question 50 and end the recording here. So if you want 3 different silent recordings, yes, you need to start and end that recording 3 times. Yeah.
Okay, that's it, Frank.
Okay. Let's do the recap once more for the particular CAPIs, for the CAPI features. So as seen, you can view the location as recorded in the paradata. You can view pictures in context if that was set as an answer option. You can listen to recordings in context if that was set as an answer option. You can listen to silent recordings in context, but listen to silent recordings in context. That recording must be linked to the first question of the silent recording. This is how you do that, rec blank 1, and then actually the question ID of the first question of that silent recording block. The link question of the silent recording must be posted to the respondent. And otherwise, you will not see that silent recording appear in the quality control page. That silent recording, of course, will still be made. It will just not be linked in the quality control page. Any last questions?
No, all clear, Frank.
Okay, then as always, recordings of this session will be made available later this week. The manuals are already updated, so you can read everything back in the manuals. If you have any suggestions for a topic, please write to your help desk. The next NIPO Academy, probably somewhere in August, will be about filter options that we are currently building in Odin, and that is an extension on the if options that are already available in Odin. So if there are no other questions, then thank you and talk to you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.